Okay, so we can invoke auspiciousness together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadev. Today we are reading from the third canto, entitled The Status Quo. And we are reading from the fifth chapter, which is Vidura Talks with Maitreya. And we are on text 27. Again, 3, 5, 27. 3, 5, 27. Srimad Bhagavatam. We can read, pronounce one Sanskrit at a time. When we do that, we usually do that from the word-for-word translation Sanskrit word. So that's where I'm going to read. Tata, Abhavat, Mahat, Tadvam, Avyaktat, Kala, Kalachoditat, Vijnana Atma, Atma Dehastam, Vishvam, Vyajan, Tamanuda, Tato Bhavan Mahatadvam, Avyatakt Kalak Choditat, Vijnanat Matmadeyastam, Vishvam Yanjam Stamo Nudaha, Tato Bhavan Mahatadvam, Avyaktat Kalachoditat, Vijnanat Matmadeyastam, Vishvam Vyajam Stamonudam, Tato Bhavam Mahatadvam, Avyaktat Kalachoditat, Vijnanat Matmadeyastam, Vishvam Vyanjam Stamonudam,
Tato Bhavan Mahattatvam, Avyaktat Kalachoditat,
Avyaktam Kalachoditam,
Vijnanatmatma Dehastam,
Vijnanat Matmadeyastam,
Vishvam Vyanjam Stamonuda,
Vishvam Vyanjam Vamomuda,
Tato Bhavan Mahattatvam,
Tato Bhavatvam,
Avyaktat Kalachoditat,
Avyaktat Kalachoditam,
Vijnanamatma dehastam
Vijnanamatma dehastam
Vishvam Vyanjam Stamonuda
Vishvam Vyanjam Stamodam.
Someone online would like to chant?
Tato bhavam mahatattvam
Tato bhavam
Mahatatvam
avyaktat kala choditat
Avyaktat Kala Choditat
vijnanatmatma dehastam
Vijnanamatma dehastam
vishvam vyajam stamom nuda.
Vishvam Vyanjam Samonuda
Tato bhavan matatvatam
Tato Bhavan Mahatatvam
avyaktat kala choditat
Avyaktat Kala Choditat
vijanatmatma dehasvam
Vijnanamatma dehastam
visvam vyajam stamo nudaha.
Vishvam Vyanjam Samonuda
Anybody else would like to chant the verse? Christy.
Tato bhavan mahatattvam
Tato Bhavan Mahatatvam
avyatat kala choditat
Avyaktat kala choditat
vijanatma madihasham
Vijnanamatma dehastam
vishvam vayanjam samoda
Vishvam Vyanjam Samonuda
Thank you. Now the word for word translation. Tata,
Tata.
thereafter.
thereafter
Abhavat,
abhavat
came into existence.
Came into existence.
Mahat,
Mahat.
supreme.
Supreme
Tattvam,
Tattvam
sum total.
Sum total
Avyaktat,
Avyaktat
from the unmanifested.
from the unmanifested
Kala choditat,
Kala Choditat
by the interaction of time.
by the interaction of time
Vijnana Atma,
Vijnana Atma
unalloyed goodness.
unalloyed goodness
Atma Dea Stam,
Atma Dehastam
situated on a bodily self.
situated on the bodily self
Vishvam,
Vishvam
complete universes.
complete universes
Vyanjan,
Vyanjan
manifesting.
manifesting
Tama,
Tama
Tamanuda,
Tamanuda
the supreme light.
the supreme light
Translation. Thereafter, influenced by the interaction of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sowed the seed of universal manifestation out of his own body. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In due course of time, the impregnated material energy was manifested first as a total material ingredients. Everything takes its own time to fructify. Therefore, the word kala choditat, influenced by time, is used herein. The Mahatattva is a total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. The Mahatattva is directly connected with the supreme consciousness of the Supreme Being, but still it appears as matter. The Mahatattva or shadow of pure consciousness, is the germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness, with a slight addition of the material mode of passion, and therefore activity is generated from this point. Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganachala Shalakaya Shakshun Militan Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamupakadamayam Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sakajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savajutam Pajana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gerange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvesesha Shunyavadi Paskyacha Dejatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Grim Yat Krita Tamam Vande Shigum Dejatarine. So we are reading from the third canto, chapter 5, text 27. It reads, translation reads, thereafter, influenced by the interaction of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sowed the seed of universal manifestation, so the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. Hare Krishna. So I was thinking, like, if we look at every culture, every tradition, there is always a story. There is always a story how things manifested. I remember when I was looking in New Zealand, the Maori people, they have stories that involve a well and how creation took place. And there is so many stories all over the world. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is kind of giving us an aggregate of all those stories. When we hear a story, we can say, oh, that's wrong. But in reality, they have all some truths. There was an incarnation of Krishna, Saktyavesh avatar called Parashuram. Do you know the timing of Parashuram? I was thinking of.
Timing, well, he was there at the...
Dwapara Yuga?
Dwapara sounds right, about the same time as Ramachandra.
Yeah. Oh. But when he was there at the same time as Ramachandra, but when he killed all the king was during the realm of Ramachandra or well later?
Oh, I think a little after, but a little could be 1,000,000 years.
A million years. Anyway, so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking how there was so many time in history narrated by the Bhagavatam, narrated by the Mahabharata. Mahabharata, Srila Prabhupada says, is the history of the world. So we can learn a lot from the Mahabharata. That there is a lot of destruction of dynasty. and destruction of dynasty, Parashurami, 21 times he destroyed all the dynasty of all the king on earth. Until he was stopped, like, okay, that's enough. You have done enough of that. And then, of course, there was a battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the battlefield of Kurukshetra, a lot of kings were there from all over the world. They all gathered there in different sides. And there were 600 million people killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So, we hear those things and we want to bring them down to, okay, what does that mean? What could it mean? And how it disseminated the whole culture of India, the Vedic culture, all over the world, and not carried by, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, I gave this knowledge to the sun god and to Manu and Ishvaku, and then it was lost. So that knowledge is lost, but that doesn't mean like 100% of the knowledge is lost. It means that we can find the knowledge that we, gracefully received from A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the knowledge of the Veda. We can find trace of it everywhere. All those kings during Parashuram, killing, they dispersed themselves and all over the world, and they took a little piece of something with them, whatever people were left, and they were not Kshatriyas the one were left. They kind of remember some stories, and we can see that in India. Many times we have had Indian, descendants coming to the seminar, coming to us for coaching, and they have story about Krishna, or they have story about something from the Veda, and usually they are completely ignorant in reality because they didn't have any disciplic succession. They receive knowledge like the folklore of the knowledge. And so, a well is very possible because, for example, in the 8th canto, there is a description of the Matsya avatar. And the Matsya avatar, there was a king. Right now, I forgot his name.
Satyavrata?
Oh, Satyavrata. Satyavrata, he was told by Krishna, it's going to be devastation, and there will be Indra, and he's going to pour water for many, many days and many, many nights. And then the earth is going to be covered with water. And then I'm going to send a ship. And in that ship, please put like every plant and every species of life in that ship. And then I will come myself as a fish, Matsya mean avatar, fish avatar. And you're going to also see Vasuki. You're going to see Vasuki, and you're going to use Vasuki with a snake, very famous snake. He was there also for the churning of the ocean. And you're going to, I will have a horn. It's a fish with a horn, and you are going to put the rope of Vasuki, the snake, around my horn, and I'm going to guide you. I'm going to guide you like that. So yes, he looked very much like, because after that there is creation again. So for the Maori to say, oh, creation happened with a big whale and a boat, and from that all life came. Well, that's true. We found that in the Veda. There is Noah's arks that look very much the same. So we can imagine that from some culture, they have that story as they think, oh, that's the beginning. And the same thing if we look at Judeo-Christian, slant on creation. So it's Adam and Eve, in heaven. So, I don't have knowledge of a specific story, but, it's in Dwapara Yoga too. So it's at the end of Dwapara Yoga, according to the timeline that's given in a Bible. And for sure, we can imagine some stories that was told that the souls were all with God. They were all with God. And that's what the Veda said. We were with God. And because of sin, because of sin, which sin means anything that separates us from God. Any thought or action that separated from us from God is sin. And they were bitten by a snake, and then whatever, the snake of desire, and then they degraded into the material consciousness. Well, that's there too. And all the folk carried that story. Well, we can see that just now also if we hear story from Indian descendants, people who have grew up in Hinduism, for example. They know a lot of story from the Mahabharata, but the way it sounds is so folklore. It's incomplete. It has some things that sound like what we receive from the absolute knowledge. It has some truth in it, and then it's very incomplete truth. So from time immemorials, there is stories of creation, and every culture has their own story, every religion has their own story, every human being, like the scientists, they have their own story. They come up with new story all the time. Quantum physics, and then there was like the Big Bang, and then there is the primordial soup, and now there is a singularity. They also have their stories. They also want to find out what creation is about, and they tell us a story. And then there is Darwinism, like how the human being came about. They also have their story, and there is some truth in Darwinism too, and there is some truth in the primordial soup, and there is some truth in the singularity and the Big Bang. So it's quite fascinating to see how much we crave for that knowledge of creation. So in the Bhagavatam, like first canto we have creation, second canto we have creation, third canto we have creation. It's like hammering home. And of course in the Bhagavad Gita we hear about creation because it's natural. It's natural for us to understand where we come from and where all that took place and how it took place. And it's hard to accept authority. It is really hard to accept the authority of the Veda. I know my tendency is like, no, it must not be what's given to me. It must be something else. I don't know what that something else is, but it cannot be something that's given to me. I need to figure it out. So here, Maitreya speaking to Vidura, that's where he go first, because that's where we need to all go first. Where are we coming from? What's that all about? Everything that surrounds us, and what's the purpose of it? What is it, and what's the purpose of it? So that's where Maitreya go first. So I'm going to read the few verses from Maitreya to kind of refresh our memories of. So in verse 22, Maitreya speak and say, I shall therefore describe, maybe before there's something. Yeah, first he glorified his question, Vidura's question, and then he said, I shall therefore describe to you the pastime by which the personality of Godhead extends his transcendental potency for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic world as they occur one after another. So that's what Maitreya starts there. So we can see like it's a pastime of the Lord. For the Lord is not job. And that's interesting. Yesterday, during our Krishna book reading, we look at so many contradictions in our philosophy, isn't it? Because we are saying like Krishna is not involved with creation. Krishna is Goloka Vrindavan, is enjoying with his eternal associate. He doesn't get his hand dirty, doesn't get involved. But here he said, I should describe by which a personality of Godhead extends his transcendental potency for the creation, maintenance, and the cosmic manifestation. So, and how they occur one after another. So Krishna doesn't get involved doesn't mean that he's not involved. Like yesterday we were speaking in Krishna book, like like in Krishna consciousness, there is completeness in incompleteness. In Krishna consciousness, there is perfection in imperfection. So it's all the duality are always coming together as a complete whole. And so similarly, there is complete whole in the fact that Krishna doesn't get involved, and Krishna is there at every step of the way, and we will see that in a description. Then Maitreya goes on and he said, the personality of Godhead, the master of all living entities, existed prior to creation as one without the second. It is by his will only that creation is made possible. Again, everything merges in him. The Supreme Self is symptomized by different names. That's also primary to understand that creation takes place out of the free will of the Lord when he desires, and that before creation, it's not like there is nothing, or like a black hole, or I don't know. It's hard to imagine it's hard to imagine to be in a space of that before the creation of the cosmic manifestation. For most people, it means just the earth. Like the reality of most people usually is their village, but sometimes it's just their country. But if it extends beyond their country, most people, they go to earth. And that's kind of earth. And then the sun is there to serve earth. The moon is there to serve the earth. And everything is really centered around the earth. But, if we go further, probably like we can imagine, okay, there is all those stars and all the planets, and then many universes, and then, okay, what if this is like me, I have a beginning and an end? Because I have a beginning and an end, and everything that's material have a beginning and an end. Everything I see around me have a beginning and an end. Is there something beyond that creation that have a beginning and an end that doesn't have a beginning and an end? It's like a natural question to ask. And then here we are hearing, yes, there is, and that's the Supreme Personality of Godhead existed before creation and existed after creation. And in the previous verse, he said, it's transcendental possibility, creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And there it says, everything his will only. It is by his will only that creation is made possible again, and again everything merges in him. So creation is possible, and also by his will, everything merges into him. And that Supreme Self is symptomized by different names. And that's really important because it's not Krishna, it's these different expansion. We are hearing about Narayan, the Purusha avatar, and then the different Lord of Vaikuntha, the Vishnu Murtis, and all that. So they are all different names, and they're all named according, the Vishnu Murtis are all named according to their 4 symbols. So now, the Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Sarva in chapter 5, the last verse of chapter 5, Sarvaloka Maheshwara is the proprietor of everything, is the proprietor of all the planet and demigods. So the undisputed, nobody can dispute him. I like that word, undisputed. No, everything belongs to me. Wow, I have a hard time paying my bills. So undisputed, even, Brahma doesn't dispute that. The proprietor of everything was the only seer, the only who can see. The cosmic manifestation was not present.
Hello, welcome on my channel, and today we are going to make
The undisputed proprietor of everything was the only seer. The only manifestation was not present at that time, and that he felt imperfect without his plenary and separated parts and parcel. So that is the proprietor of everything. And then at the same time, you feel incomplete because what? Because of Adam and Eve. Because he felt incomplete without, because as soon as Adam and Eve decided that they wanted to enjoy separated from the Lord felt, oh, Adam and Eve, you're my part and parcel. I want you back. I miss you. So out of my free will, I'm going to create a place for you to go where, by the agency of my external energy, hopefully you will wake up and hopefully you will understand that your place is with me. So I repeat again, it's just verses are so amazing. The Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, was the only seer. The cosmic manifestation was not present at that time, and thus he felt imperfect without his plenary and separate. So plenary is the Vishnus, and his separated part and parcels are us. Vinimansa, yeah, the separated part and parcel, it's living entities, us. The material energy was dormant, so that's the material energy, that's pradhan, is dormant, is inert. Pradhan, matter doesn't have any power to create life. So pradhan is like the material energy was dormant, it's like the subtle aspect of material nature. It was dormant, so it's subtle aspect of material nature. Whereas the internal potency was manifested. So that's the living entities, the spiritual energy, the internal energy. The Lord is the seer, and the external energy which is seen work as both the cause and effect of the cosmic manifestation. So everything is about cause and effect. The more I meditate on the causal ocean and cause and effect, as long as we imagine the cause and effect on a material level, like whatever, I'm sick because A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I'm miserable because A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and this world is functioning very badly because of the government. As long as we create immediate cause and effect, we are going to be stuck within the framework of cause and effect. That's very simple when we think about it. That's where we are going to get stuck. So, oh great fortunate Vidura, this external energy is known as Maya or illusion, and through our agency only is entire material manifestation made possible. So the cause and effect is Maya, is illusion. We just, in fact, the only supreme cause is the will of the Lord and our desire to be separated from the Lord, and that's it, and that's at the core. And if we understand that, we are going to step out of the entanglement of cause and effect, immediate cause and effect, or material cause and effect. So next, Maitreya says, the Supreme Living Being in his feature as a transcendental Purusha incarnation with the Lord's plenary expansion impregnates the material nature of three modes, and thus, by the influence of eternity, the living entities appear. So I was thinking, like, yes, so the womb of a mother can be compared to like the material energy in a dormant stage, like pradhan. The womb of a mother is pradhan. He cannot create a baby. He cannot create a baby, but he has the recipient to create a baby. And then Srila Prabhupada gave that example in the purport to this very verse. Then we have the living entity that infused in the womb, pradhan. And then from that is created the Mahatattva. And the verse we have today, I want to read it again, and because it follows what I want to say. Therefore, influenced by the interaction of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. And so we have the soul entering the sperm, and that's not creation either. You know, that's we will say that's all the souls that are wind in at the end of Brahma's life, at the end of the cosmic manifestation. All those souls are winding the Mahavishnu and Narayan, and so that's a sperm with the soul, like that. And then there is how it's called, impregnation. So there is impregnation happening, and then at the impregnation, what the humor of the womb of the mother, of the woman, and the humor also, and the content of the sperm come together, and that's the Mahatattva. Oh, you know, that's an analogy, but we can see it as the Mahatattva, and there also by the will of the Lord is the seeds of creation, because it's not like, even, you know, they try in laboratory to put those two together, and that's not complete. Why? Because the seed of creation is not there. So that's this verse is about. So at first we have that amalgamation of the living entities and the womb, the pradhan, and that creates the Mahatattva. And the Mahatattva is said to be the Mahatattva is a sum total. You know, Prabhupada says the sum total is the sum total of material creation. So everything is contained in the Mahatattva. And from the Mahatattva, all the 24 elements take place. Everything is there. There is nothing. Now it's done. Like the sperm enters the ovula. Now you have the Mahatattva. Now you have the seeds of creation, the seeds of, according to what, but like what mother it is, there is a seed for all the creation of that small universe, maybe in the form of human, maybe in the form of a dog or cat, but the seed is planted there. And so Kadat Choditat. So when the seed and Mahatattva is there, and the sum total of all material creation is there, then that's it. Then we need to wait. Like we wait 9 months to have a baby. It's not right away. There is a baby. And so here it's important. Srila Prabhupada said the word Kala Chodita, influenced by time, is used here in the Mahatattva is the total consciousness, because the portion of present. Okay, that there is everything take its own time to fructify. So this Mahatattva in a woman is take 9 months, and even 9 months in the Lord Brahma's life. It's probably something like 3 billion, like hold on, a day. So wow, it's so long. I couldn't calculate what's it a year for Lord Brahma.
40 billion.
40 billion.
9 months,
So it will be maybe 30 billion years,
yeah.
Something like that. So in due course of time, everything takes its own time, and just 9 months of Lord Brahma. And I'm not saying that's the times that the Mahatattva evolve, but it's just give us an idea of what we are speaking here. And then after there is a beautiful, then the Mahatattva is a total consciousness, because a portion of it is represented in everyone as intellect. And in the verse, in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, I'm not going to, I don't have the second canto, but there is a verse that says intelligence and intellect come from the super soul. 2:35, that's the verse. It's a beautiful verse. In fact, many years ago, I went to Gita Nagari and I took a 1 week course on that verse. We didn't go anywhere for 1 week, we just dove into that verse. And it said that the director of the intellect is a super soul. So there is a super soul of all the universe, that's Mahavishnu. There is a super soul of one universe, which is Garbhodakasha Vishnu, and then there's a super soul in every atom and in our heart, which is Kshirodakasha Vishnu. So intelligence is inside our heart, but it's also everywhere. There is intelligence everywhere, and if we tap into that real intellect. Intellect is not an accumulation of data, like they want us to believe that intellect means accumulation of data. You learn at school, it's all data. It's not intellect, it's accumulation of data. Intellect is something that is helping us making discrimination, to make distinction, and has nothing to do with data. And then he said, the Mahatattva is directly connected to the supreme consciousness of the supreme being, but still it appears as matter. So, like, the Mahatattva is described, and I took some notes on something I wrote, but the Mahatattva is the covering. It's the cloud. We spoke about the cloud, that we are in spiritual sky. Everything is a spiritual sky. There is nothing but the spiritual sky. Nothing is separated from the spiritual sky. We are in the spiritual sky. However, that Mahatattva is considered like a cloud of darkness that bring darkness. It's like we have the sun of the Brahma Jyoti, which is the impersonal aspect. The seed of creation is really the Brahma Jyoti, the impersonal aspect, and it's bright like the sun, way brighter, because the sun's ray emanates from the Brahma Jyoti. And then the Mahatattva, it's kind of covering that. And at the same time, like, even if there is a cloud in the sky, we are under the sun. So we are always under Krishna's energy and within Krishna's energy. Because even if there is cloud, there is light. And the light comes from the sun. Even when there is cloud, even there is thick cloud and it's gray, there is still some light. And that light comes from the sun. So the light of Krishna is always here, even though there is a cloud of the Mahatattva. It's always here, and it can help us see ourselves and see everything else. So, okay, so there's so many places I could go. But anyway, the Mahatattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is a germination place of all creation. So everything, the 24 elements, the 26 elements, everything is in Mahatattva. It's in germination place. Like when the ovule and the sperm come, it's a germination place. It's not a baby. It's not a heart. There is no digestive system. There is no lungs. There is no arms. There is no legs. But the seed, the seed of all that is there. So in a Mahatattva, there is a seed of all the nose. There is in the seed form, and then as Garbhodakasha Vishnu enter the each universe, then those take form, and that's Brahma workshop. That Brahma, he has a workshop with all the possibility of nose and ears and mouth and arms, and okay, this is a bird, so we are going to put that together. That's a workshop. And it's very much the creation, the Bible. In the Bible, we see like God works very hard in his workshop to create our life. But that's really Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is just a very empowered living being, but he's a created being too. He's a created being. And so that's a germination. It is pure goodness with a slight addition of the material mode of passion. And that's so important to see that in fact, what we call goodness, material goodness, doesn't exist in the sense of, is never pure goodness. Material goodness is what we are reading here in a Mahatattva, which pure goodness with a slight addition of the material mode of passion. And that's what creates, and therefore activity is generated from this point. As soon that there is a slight mixed in pure goodness with the mode of passion, that the machine take place and all creation take place. So how to unwind all that? How does that apply to me? you know, like we are here, we are coming as out of the Mahatattva, and then created by Brahma with our nose and our ears, entangled here, and then I wanted to go somewhere that's amazing purport that will give us the how to unwind. I like that. So Vidura, after he spoke with Maitreya, to Maitreya, he went back home to see what was happening, because he just heard about the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He heard like all his family members were killed, and he heard about Krishna departing this world. He heard about all that, and he said, "Okay, what's up with my brother Dhritarashtra? I want to know." And also, because he's a pure devotee, he's always ready to serve. And so he went back home. Even so, he was very humiliated when he was kicked out of his house. He went back home. Why? For the only purpose to deliver his brother Dhritarashtra. So after he heard from Maitreya, he went back home and he shared with Dhritarashtra. First, he said, "You're like a dog. You're like a dog. You're living at the expense of the people that you are tortured and that you made your enemy all your life. You're like taking food from people that you have, like tried to annihilate." So it's like at first he kind of speaks the truth about his position and who he is. And then he say, he wake him up. He say, "Okay, like you're old now, like what you expect. Continue to enjoy with your wife. You're old, you're getting old. It's time for you to realize the purpose of human life. It's time for you to learn about the absolute truth, to learn what's the reason for your existence." And then Vidura gave a lot of knowledge to Dhritarashtra. So, and Dhritarashtra, he understood, and there is a chapter in the first canto called Dhritarashtra Quits Home. And in that chapter, explain how, Dhritarashtra, he follow all the instruction of Vidura, and then he used a yogic process to use the Astanga yogic process. Astanga yoga is a bona fide process. It's right there in the Bhagavad Gita. And he used that process to unwind the process of the creation. And through the Astanga yoga process, of course, like Dhritarashtra, he was guided by Vidura, and Vidura met him where he was at. And so that's what he learned from Vidura. So I'm going to read from text 54, and then I will just read the text 54, and then text 55, and then we will read the purport. And that purport is quite amazing. So one who has controlled the sitting postures, the yogic asana, and the breathing process can turn the senses towards the absolute personality of Godhead, and thus become immune of the contamination of the mode of material nature, namely mundane goodness, passion, and ignorance. So as soon as we turn, like it said, for example, Dhruva Maharaj, he was 5 years old, and he was sent by his mom to the forest, and he met Narada Muni, and Narada Muni told him to chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. But he says his austerity, and because he was focused on that mantra so much, because he so much wanted a kingdom bigger than his grandfather, that the earth was trembling, that the power of focusing on the spiritual matter, to focus on the personality of God, is so powerful. It can completely free us. We can just like be freed from illusion, be free from the clutch of Maya. The clutch of Maya is not going, we are not going to win against Maya, but we can de-entangle ourselves by focusing elsewhere, focusing above Maya. So, okay. So one who has control of the sitting posture, yogic asana, and the breathing process can turn the senses towards the personality coded Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevana Bhakti Uchate. That's the master of the senses of Rishikesh. So he's a master of our senses. Our senses, they are mastered by Krishna, and we can let Krishna use them and not get involved. And thus become immune to the contamination of the modes of material nature, namely mundane goodness. So here is clear mundane goodness. There is no, in a sense, there is no goodness in the material world. There is mundane goodness. Passion and ignorance. Text 55. Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate. Dhritarashtra will have to amalgamate his pure identity with intelligence. So again, where does the intelligence come from? The super soul. The intelligence is like within the Mahatattva as a manifestation of the energy of the Lord. And then merge into the Supreme Being with knowledge of his qualitative oneness as a living entity with the Supreme Brahman. So qualitatively, we are one with Brahman. Qualitatively, we are the same matter, which is spiritual matter. And being free from the blocked sky. So remember, the blocked sky is like the Mahatattva is a cloud. So being free from the blocked sky. There is no more illusion, no more Mahatattva, only the sun. He will have to rise to the spiritual sky. So that's a kind of a mechanical process to unwind, to go back, to open that sky and go back to the spiritual sky. And so the purport is quite fascinating. Let's see, what time is it? The purport is very fascinating, and I hope I have enough time to read it. Yeah, I have. Okay. So, purport. The living being, by his desiring to lord it over the material world and declining to cooperate with the Supreme Lord, contacts the sum total of the material world, namely the Mahatattva. And from the Mahatattva, his false identity with the material world, intelligence, mind, and senses is developed. Okay, here's like summary of everything we said until now. So the living entity desire to lord it over material world, declining to cooperate. I love the words Srila Prabhupada used with the Supreme Lord. Contacts the sum total of the material world. So that's like the seed, and put in contact with the Mahatattva. That's what's happening. And then everything from there, that's the downward spiral. Contact the sum total of material world. So again, the sum total in a seed form is a Mahatattva, namely the Mahatattva. And from the Mahatattva is false identity with the material world, intelligence. So we identified with the material world. We identified with like our material intelligence, our material mind, and that's developed at that moment. At that moment, we start the false identification. We see the false ego, which is one of the elements in the Mahatattva. This covers is pure spiritual identity. So the Mahatattva is covering our pure spiritual identity. Our identification with our senses is covering our pure identity. Our identification with our intelligence, our mind, the false ego, which is false identification, is covering our spiritual identity. By the yogic process, when his pure identity is realized in self-realization, one has to revert to the original position by amalgamating the 5 gross elements and the subtle element, mind and intelligence, into the Mahatattva again. And there's many descriptions like that in the Bhagavatam, where yogi kind of reverse the process And I'm always very fascinated by those descriptions of this reversal of the process, like how they breathe and they merge the breathing into the air, the element of air, and then they merge the senses into the earth, and they merge the fire of digestion into the fire back, because the universe is made of 5 gross elements and 3 subtle elements. So is our small universe, the body, made of the same thing. So we can give it back. We can put it back where it belongs. And I know daily, because of my practice of Qigong, I do that meditation of seeing like those elements are outside of me and inside of me, and they are all material. And that's all we need to heal the body or move the body. The planet move with energy of the Lord, and everything in our body can move with that same energy, and we can re-amalgamate that and separate from that. So that's what the yogi do by self-realization. Revert the original position. So it's like we are reversing that process by amalgamating the 5 gross elements. So that's amalgamating my earth into the earth, my water into the water, my fire into the fire, my air into the air, and my ether into the ether, which is the most subtle material element. In fact, sometimes Prabhupada said pradhan is like ether in some places. And the subtle elements, mind and intelligence. So there is a gross element, the most subtle into being ether, and the subtle element, which is the mind, intelligence, and force ego, into the Mahatattva again. So put it back. Okay, you can take it back. Thus getting free from the clutches of the Mahatattva, he has to merge into the existence of the super soul. So merging into the existence of the super soul is like we hold, we can interpret it so many ways, but we can hold on to, like there is a description in one of the Upanishad about a bird. There is 2 birds in a tree, the tree of the material energy. One bird is eating the fruit of the material energy, and the other one is witnessing. Upadashwa Anumantacha is like the one who provide, and the one who witness, and the one who sanction also. And then as soon as the little bird turns to the big bird, then it can merge into that big bird. Not in a way of being one in terms of quantity, but being one in quality with the big bird. And then allow the big birds to be in charge of what's happening with the Mahatattva manifestation in this body, intelligence and mind, and all that. So we can smile, the little bird can constantly smile and have a connection and speak with the big bird and tell her, oh, here is what's happening. In other words, he has to realize that qualitatively he is non-different from the super soul, and thus he transcends the material sky by his pure identical intelligence. So again, earlier we read in our verse today that intelligence, intellect, coming pure identical intelligence. So what does that mean? Pure identical intelligence. Identical with what? With the super soul. So qualitatively, one merge with the super soul, identifying with that pure intelligence. And that's right there. And thus becomes engaged in a transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the highest perfectional development of spiritual identity, which was attained by Dhritarashtra by the grace of Vidura and the Lord. Vidura and the Lord. So by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we can achieve the same success. Prabhupada told us, he promised us, if we follow his instruction, we rise up early in the morning, chant it at least 16 rounds a day, making sure we don't commit any sinful activity anymore, starting with, not engaging in illicit sex and meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, that is going to, at the time of death, is going to help us with that process. The Lord's mercy was bestowed upon him by his personal contact with Vidura. So the Lord's mercy is bestowed upon us by our personal contact with Srila Prabhupada. And when he was actually practicing the instruction of Vidura, the Lord helped him to attain the highest perfectional stage. So important, I'm repeating. And he was, and when he was actually practicing the instruction of Vidura, so Vidura, like, he chastised him, and then he gave him the big picture, and then he said, here is what you need to do. Go off, leave the palace, go and meditate and do those practice. And when we follow the practice given by us, by the spiritual master, then the Lord is pleased, and the Lord help him to attain the highest perfectional stage. So by following Srila Prabhupada, we get the help of Krishna. And what help we get? The help to follow Prabhupada. I will read the last paragraph because it's a glorification. A pure devotee of the Lord does not live on any planet of the material sky, nor does he feel any contact with material elements. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, there is many testimonial of people witnessing him going like defeating or defying the law of material nature. He didn't do it too much. Lord Jesus Christ did it a lot more. He did it all the time, in fact, and to convince his followers that he was who he said he was. But Srila Prabhupada mainly didn't do that. But there is exception, and there is time when he defied the law of nature, because a spiritual, a pure devotee is free, is not under the law of material nature. Even so, he appeared to be. For the sake of his service, he appeared to be under the law of material nature. He is not. Like Krishna, sometime in his Dwarka pastime, he appears to be under the law of material nature. But of course, we see he manifests so many times the fact that he is not. His so-called material body does not exist, being surcharged with the spiritual current of the Lord's identical interest, and thus he is permanently freed from all contamination of the sum total of the Mahatattva. So the pure devotee is free from the sum total of the Mahatattva. Is not under the cloud, is directly under the sun. There is nothing separating him from the sun. He is always in the spiritual sky, which he attains by being transcendental to the sevenfold material covering by the effect of his devotional service. The conditioned soul are within the coverings, whereas the liberated soul is far beyond the cover. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. And so Srila Prabhupada's main instruction for us to reverse and amalgamate all our material illusion back into the Mahatattva. The main process for that is chanting of Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada said by chanting the Maha Mantra, yesterday, in a class, you say by chanting the Maha Mantra, we clean our heart, and then we see things in more and more clearly. We see things in the right perspective. And that's the perspective of the Bhagavata and the Bhagavatam, the person Bhagavata, Srila Prabhupada, and the book Bhagavatam, that's also a person, Sukadev Goswami, Vyasadeva, Sutta Goswami. Yeah. So I'm going to read again our verse. Tato bhavam mahatadvam avyaktat kalat shoditat vigyanat matmadeastam vishvam vyajam tamo nuda. I really wanted to speak about all the words like avyaktak from the unmanifested. Anyway, another time. Therefore, influenced by the interaction of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested, and in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness the Supreme Lord, sowed the seed of universal manifestation, seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. So amazing. Hare Krishna. Any comment, question, challenges? Hare Krishna. Back to Daniel.
Hare Krishna, Mother Malini, thank you for this class. So enlivening. Really so much to think about and so many different directions that you've taken the conversation. And the one thing that really stands out to me in all of the multifarious that you presented this morning is the idea of really focusing on almost like the idea of like the conservation of energy, that things are not created or destroyed, that is what it looks like. And yet at the very basis, there is only transformation. The idea of things being manifested and unmanifested, but there's no diminution or loss.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very humbling. And that is very, it's a healing feeling.
The law of conservation. It's a physical. Yeah, it's very like it's just transformation, and it can be extremely deeply healing. And you're feeling that energy, like it's all that. It's like in a sense there is nothing dark or white or to be thrown in the trash, because there's no trash, and it's only transformation. Yeah. And also what's very healing to me is that at every stage of creation and at every stage there is a Lord's hand, because nothing can happen without the Lord's sanction. So the two combined make us like surrendering into cradling ourselves into the energy of the Lord. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I feel your emotion of healing, like very deeply healing, to understand the law of conservation and transformation. Yeah, it's all only transformation. And we can transform, everything in our body can be transformed in a moment. That's how Christ healed so many people. Anything else? Any comment, question about creation, transformation? And now we are fully dependent on Krishna. And if we develop full trust, because he's active in every stage of creation and he's active in every stage of transformation, if we by trusting that, then that's it. There's nothing else. Nothing else needed to be done. Parampa, Prabhu.
Yeah, it was a lot of thoughts come up and things to meditate on and consider, and it's very interesting, fascinating, like this part, meditating on these topics, and it does sort of, at least to my like very impersonal, heart and conditioning to kind of sound some like impersonalism, like there's a Mahatattva, there's this, it seems that on one hand there's like a time where the Lord was existing without, his parts and parcels, and then there's a Mahatattva, and then there's seeds, and then like souls develop, it seems to like lend itself to that sort of connection. So there's even that the Mahatattva is the total consciousness, and then so then but at the same time I'm understanding that this is like one universe. This is like the creation. This Mahatattva is all
The Mahatattva it's before universes are manifesting.
So Mahatattva, so
The seed that we are speaking about here, sowed the seed of universal manifestation out of his own body. So then it's there. It's kind of before, like the breathing of the universes. It's just right there.
It's like the start of a distinction between the spiritual sky and, like I said, like this clouded region of material creation. So so that's still lends to that conception, maybe even strong. So,
Well, it's easier for us to think of the creation of Earth or the universe, but that's way beyond that. And that's still puny in comparison to the rest of the spiritual sky. It's like only 25% of the spiritual sky get covered with the Mahatattva.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it does seem that there is some, unmanifested, like there is some truth to impersonalism.
Completely.
There's some truth to impersonalism. So maybe I have to speak on like what is the completeness that brings the personalism to, like this little section we're seeing, like that there's this, especially it's just pure goodness. The Mahatattva is pure goodness, and the Prabhupada makes a distinction in the purport that it's pure goodness with a slight addition of material motive passion. Because that was another part, is that you're saying like, okay, it's a spiritual sky, but then the Mahatattva is kind of clouding that spiritual sky. But how could pure goodness cloud the spiritual sky? Well, then Prabhupada makes a distinction. Well, it's the slight addition of material mode of passion that gives the cloudiness to the. And also, Prabhupada says Mahatattva, or shadow of pure consciousness. So it's not pure consciousness. There's a shadow of pure consciousness germinating place. But anyway, so maybe that's the question. Is just what you speak about, like what's the. But there's some truth in impersonalism. It seems.
Do you think I can have the second canto?
I think I can. And then
one of the red one maybe on the table there.
What is the personal completion to this, like?
I have perfect purport for you, so I'm going to find it. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, impersonalism, Vadantitat Tattva Vida.
Hare Krishna, I think we cannot hear. Okay.
So I say, of course, there is truth to the impersonal Brahman. Of course, it's Krishna. And we want to glorify the impersonal Brahman. And it is the whole cosmic manifestation. It is based on the Brahma Jyoti. So it's an impersonal manifestation of Krishna. And I was quoting Vadanti Tattva Vidas Tattva Gyanam Avyayam Bhameti Bhamatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. So it says that Sutta Goswami speaking to the sages, he said, learn transcendentalists who have understand the absolute truth, call this non-dual substance. So they say the non-dual substance, no cause and effect, non-dual. In three, and understanding in three ways. The understanding in three ways. It doesn't say there is only one way. It's the understanding in three ways, and all of them are spiritualists. And it's a Brahman, the Brahman aspect, which is impersonal, like oneness in spiritual, all the souls, it's oneness. And if we had the eyes to see, we could see that oneness right now. We could see that the trees and the grass and inside my body, everywhere is souls. It's a Brahma Jyoti in a sense. There is souls, millions of souls just in these rooms. So that's the oneness, the real oneness, if we could see that, a Brahman. And Paramatma is also to be able to see the localized aspect of Krishna in the art of all living entities and even in the atom. And then Bhagavan, which is like the personal aspect of Krishna, who is full with 6 opulences. And so I'm going to read that purport because it's really nicely the way Prabhupada say it is so nice. So I prefer Prabhupada speaking than me for 14. So it's Canto 2 and Chapter 4 and verse 14. So in that canto is the process of creation, like the name of that chapter is the process of creation. And we went through it, like, I don't know how long ago, a year or 2 or 3 years ago, we went through that chapter, the process of creation, and we went into all the details, how, ether, with the sound, and then transform into air, and all those different elements, how they manifest. Like right now we have the Mahatattva, it's like in a seed form. Like, if I take a seed of a banyan tree, there is an enormous banyan tree in that seed, and it's a banyan tree in a seed form. So Mahatattva is like that, is everything that created in the seed form. So we may not see every element, we don't see the banyan tree in the seed, but we know it's there. So, the process of creation is such a fascinating chapter we read a few years ago, and I'm going to read that. Okay. So purport is I'm just reading the purport. There are 2 sides to the transcendental manifestation of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. For the pure devotees, he is a constant companion, as in the case of his becoming one of the family members of the Yadu dynasty, or his becoming the friend of Arjuna, or his becoming the associate neighbor of the inhabitant of Vrindavan, as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, the friend of Sudam, Sridham, Madhu Mangal, or the lover of the dumb self of Rajabhumi. So that's the personal aspect. That is part of his personal feature. And by his impersonal feature, he expands the ray of the Brahma-jyoti, which is limitless and all-pervasive. Part of his all-pervasive Brahma-jyoti, which is compared to the sun rays, is covered by the darkness of the Mahatattva. So we are in impersonal, in a sense, we are in impersonal feature of Krishna. So when, Brahman realization is really elevated. When sometimes there is people I found out really elevated in that way, Brahman realization, and it's very impressive. It's very elevated. And the problem with Brahman realization is if one believes that's the end of all, that there is nothing else. But then in our Chaitanya Charitamrita's class right now, we are studying the Atmarama verse, that in fact, someone who is truly Brahman realized, as soon as he gets in contact with a pure devotee, or as soon as he's getting in contact with anything connected with the Lord, and often Prabhupada gives the example of Sukadev Goswami, who heard from Vyasadeva in the womb, or the 4 Kumara who smell the tulasi leaf that was offered to Krishna, then the devotional service, is attractive. They are attracted by Krishna, even so they are liberated from the material energy. So the Brahman realization means I'm not anymore under the law of material nature. I'm free from the 3 modes of material nature. And it's a Vasudev platform, which in fact is a platform where devotional service starts. Before that, we are lucky, we are practicing devotional service. And the beauty of devotional service, the beauty of bhakti yoga, is that we don't need to have separate endeavor. We don't need to realize ourselves, in a Brahman realization to then go to devotional service, because the process the means and the goal is one. So through devotional service, we reach all those levels of realization, and we kind of directly go to devotional service. So devotional service bring us to devotional service. So it's covered by the darkness of the Mahatattva, and this insignificant part is known as the material world. How crushing! Not only my village is insignificant, not only my country or my state is insignificant, not only Earth is insignificant, not only my universe is insignificant, but the whole universe, the whole material creation is insignificant. In this material world, there are innumerable universes like the one we can experience, and in each of them, there are hundreds and thousands of planets like the one we are inhabiting. The mountaineers are more or less captivated by the unlimited expansion of the rays of the Lord, but the devotees are concerned more with his personal form, from which everything emanates. Janmadhyasya. So I believe that Prabhupada is responding to your question.
Yeah. Thank you. It's the this is a cycle of creation. So this is like the spirit souls are like in a dormant state, or like sleeping state.
Avyakta, unmanifested.
Unmanifested. So at one point, that's like within the actual body of Vishnu, Mahavishnu, right? And then the Mahatattva is sort of like they're transferred into the Mahatattva.
They are transferred into Pradhan. The womb of the mother is Pradhan, which is inert matter. It's like, and it's in a subtle form. Prabhupada says ether. So it's in a subtle form, Pradhan. And then when the soul are put into Pradhan, into the womb, then it becomes a Mahatattva.
Okay, then it becomes a Mahatattva.
And then in a Mahatattva, there is all 24, 26 elements in the seed form for creation. The Mahatattva is a sum total of material creation. Nothing is missing. The Mahatattva is complete.
Yeah.
It's complete. Pradhan is inert matter. That's, for my research, that's what I understand.
And it's like the sleeping state. It is an impersonal existence in a sense. It's kind of like simultaneous oneness and difference. Like it is an impersonal existence, dormant and unmanifested.
It's a dormant,
state.
Unmanifested state.
But we're not like losing individuality. Perhaps it's not like merged completely. It is a merging.
We're not losing individuality, and we are not losing our karma either.
Yeah. But still,
That's a really important.
Would you say it is a sort of impersonal existence?
It's a sort of impersonal existence, but it's different than merging into the Brahmajyoti.
Yeah.
Because it's a form of impersonal existence that's still in the cloud, that's still, there is something, I don't know if I can find it quickly, but surrounded by the subtle material energy. Whether someone with like a liberated soul doesn't have any containers, not the word Prabhupada used, but is not uncaged. Is not uncaged with any material energy, any of the material energy. So it's dormant, still uncaged in the material energy, versus someone with Brahman realized and like merging into the Brahmajyoti, then doesn't have any engagement in the material energy. So that's a distinction. Yeah. But it's an impersonal, it's not a liberation though, because there is no liberation, it's just dormant. It's like when we sleep at night, we are not liberated. We can say, I like that, some people think like that. They love sleep because they don't need to think, they don't need to deal with, paying the bills, they don't need to deal with relationships, they don't need to deal with their emotion, they have a capacity, they can just sleep. So it's like saying sleeping is, like,
It's a form of liberation.
it's a form of liberation, or it's a form of impersonal, liberation. Yeah, in some ways, but I'm waking up, and then I need to deal with my bill. I need to deal with my emotion. I need to deal with a relationship versus, like a personal realization. It's awake, but because it is awake, in fact, it cannot be maintained. A personal realization, because it is awake, is not dormant. It cannot be maintained because the activity of the soul is to desire, and the soul needs to be attached and desire. So when it's freed and a personal realization, the soul is going to be active. In the Bhagavad Gita, it said the soul is always active. So it's not dormant; it's very active, and because it is active, it's not a stage that can be maintained. Either the soul continues journey up with desiring to serve Krishna and desiring to be with Krishna, or is going down by again a seed of Raja come and desiring separated from Krishna back down in the material pool. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else? Kvantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya.